Hi, Tracy here with One Blessed Step, and today I'm going to share with you my budget for 2025 with a goal of trying as best I can to live on a Social Security income. You see, that is something that me and my husband have been wondering as we continue to grow older. How do we pay for our expenses on Social Security? Now, we'll see if that can actually be done. I'd really like to do it comfortably if I can. So I'll share with you the steps that I take to come up with a budget and try to stick with it. So hopefully this will be a fun experiment for me and also a fun journey for you to watch and hopefully learn a little bit from. So if you've never done a budget before, this is like a budget 101 video. So I'm going to share with you all the things that I do whenever I'm starting to create a budget for any kind of challenge that I'm doing or just in general for managing expenses. Now, I have done many different types of tracking projects in the past. I know that when we had the Great Recession, I was really having a hard time sticking to a spreadsheet budget. So in that case, I was using envelopes. So as I talk to you about the budget that I'm putting together for myself this year, think about some of the strategies that might work best for you. And then hopefully you can maybe implement maybe a few of the tips here to help you with whatever goals that you have this year. So if you're ready, let's get started. Okay. So the first thing we need to do, and I have a little list here, so if you want to take a screenshot of that, it might be helpful for you if you're going to create your own budget. So the first thing you have to think about is, what are your goals? And so my husband and I, our goal this year is to decide, can we live on Social Security somewhat comfortably? And if not, what are some things we need to do in the meantime, because we've got quite a few years before we actually can collect Social Security, assuming it's still going to be around. And by doing this project, we will be able to save, I think, quite a bit of money to help with whatever we decide that will bridge the gap between what Social Security can provide when we retire, as well as what we will have when it's time to retire. If we retire at all. We haven't even decided. I know that my husband likely will retire, but I haven't even decided if I will ever retire. I really do enjoy what I do, but it doesn't mean that I can't plan for the future. And so the goal for me this year is to just understand, is it even feasible to live on Social Security given certain things that are going on in my life? Okay. So I'll talk through each of those as we go through this. And if you have feedback, I would love to know. I would love to hear it. So let me know in the comments. And if you like videos like this, don't forget, give us a thumbs up, subscribe. And if you think this is very helpful, share it with a friend. All right. So we talked about your goals. So you might have some goals of vacation. You might have a goal of paying off debt. You may have a goal of building emergency funds. I'll share with you how I handle that in my budget. It just depends on what exactly you want to do. Now, for this specific budget, I am just pretending that I'm living on Social Security. So if I make additional money, that was going to go into a basically savings account so that we can decide what we're doing in the future, especially as it relates to our current living condition, which, as you can see, is an RV. So definitely define your goals and make sure that they are smart, make sure they're measurable, make sure they're achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So what do I mean by that? So as I go through this with you, you'll see that I have a very specific goal, and that is to try to live with Social Security income. And what we're going to do is the average Social Security. So that's what we've decided. So I went to Social Security's website and found out how much the average person makes. So then I gave one of those salaries to me, or one of those income sources to me, and one of those income sources to my husband. So we'll have two to live on. It has to be measurable and it has to be achievable. So measurable meaning numbers in this case. Achievable meaning I actually don't know if this is achievable, but since this is a challenge, we're going to see. But an achievable goal would be, I want to save $50 a month for the next year. That would be an achievable goal for me. So that would be specific, it would be measurable, it would be achievable, it would be relevant because I need to save some money for the future, and then time bound would be this year. So that's time bound. So hopefully that is a good start to understanding your goals as well. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is calculate, well, maybe what we'll do first is what I would normally do is go to my budget spreadsheet, and this is just an estimate and I'll go through it with you. But maybe what I could do here is just write out my goal. So I'm going to just do goal to live on social. So my goal for this year is to experiment if living on Social Security is feasible. Right? Because once I understand, like, what does it really take given the situation that I'm currently in, then I can say, well, I'm going to have to work longer, or I'm going to have to extend my Social Security. So maybe I don't collect Social Security at age 62. Maybe I collect it at age 67 or 70, right? Just depending on how this experiment works with us. And then also, we've got a few years to really save if we want to, have more money than Social Security. So we've got some time. All right, so that's my goal. All right, so, whoops, wrong one. Step number 2 is calculate your income. So where is your money coming from? In my example, the money that I'm trying to have is going to be Social Security. So that's what I'm going to be putting on in the spreadsheet. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't any other income sources. So when you're creating a realistic budget, you might include interest for your savings accounts, or you might include a withdrawal from your 401k, or you might include disability paychecks. You could include an extra job. Maybe you do some side hustles. Maybe you have rental income. So whatever all of your income is, that is what you put under income. And so for our expenses, and it says use your net income for budgeting. So for our expenses for this year, Social Security, I looked it up today. It says the average Social Security income for retirees, according to Social Security website, is $1,976 per person per month. So our budget is going to be $1,976 per month times 2, because we're just going to assume that I will collect and my husband will collect. Both of us, by the way, have worked way more than the required amount of hours. Now, I don't know that my Social Security income will be as high as 1,976, but I also believe that I think the average of ours might actually be this number, so it'll be close. We'll see. But and then also it depends on when we collect. So if I decide that I want to collect at age 62, I know it's definitely not this number. But if I wait till 70, it might be closer to this number. But because we're doing an experiment just to see if we can live on average Social Security, this is the number that I'm going to be using for this year to just do this experiment with. So if I had, let's say, monthly interest, like I had some savings, right? I might have a monthly interest payment from the bank. And so then if that check is $1,000, no, let's just say it's 100, because let's be realistic. If the check from the bank is $100, right, because they deposit that into your account, then the net income would be depending on how much like taxes you pay. So in general, I'll just write this out so you see it. If you have $100 in interest and you're in, let's say, the 20% tax bracket, right? You would need to subtract the 20% of 100, right? So you would subtract 20, and then 80 is 100 minus 20, so that's 80. So you would add 80 to your income number. So hopefully that's helpful. You also maybe have a side hustle. Maybe you do some door dashing, right? And you make maybe $50 a day on that. Let's just say you do that. And you just do that for twice a month. Well, then that would be an extra $100. And then you would subtract your tax rate from that. So if it's 20% tax bracket, again, that would be $80. So you would just keep adding to this number. So just, I would add, my $80 here for my interest, and maybe I'd add $80 for DoorDash, and then I would have a budget of $4,112. But that's not the case for this, so I'm going to delete that. But that's how you put in your income. So all the sources, think of all the sources that you get income from, and that's what you'll put in your income part of the spreadsheet. If you would like to copy the spreadsheet, feel free. It's very, very simple. And I think keeping a budget really, really simple is super important. In fact, the first budget I shared with my kids when they were younger was, have a bank account. And then the money that you put in should always be growing. That was the first time I taught my kids how to budget. You never want to go negative, even with your credit card. So I always said, if you make $100, don't withdraw. I always said 50%. I always said my kids should save 50%. I know that's high. And for me, it was very, very difficult. I don't think, maybe I made that once in my lifetime, 1 month, but it wasn't something that I could do realistically. But I always said to them, just, make a goal. And especially as they were living with me, they could maybe get $100 because they did some work, right? Then I would say, okay, we'll save 50 of it, and then you could spend 50 of it. So that was the first budgeting they ever learned. The second budgeting they learned was to get multiple bank accounts, so that one bank account would be assigned to pay certain expenses, and the other savings account was just for retirement in the future. So they each were able to get different bank accounts, and that's how they easily managed their budget. Now I teach them this method because they're old enough, so they can go through this and really keep track of their expenses, I think. Okay. So that was the second step. I keep doing that. All right. So the next thing is to track your expenses. So you're going to have fixed expenses. You're going to have things like rent or mortgage. And if you don't have those, like in the case of me, you're going to have property taxes. You're going to have utilities. You're going to have insurance. You're going to have things that are fixed. Then you're going to have some variable expenses. Those things will be groceries, entertainment, dining out. To figure out what these numbers are, you need to review your bills. So I'll go through that with you in just a minute, just to kind of share with you how I came up with these expenses. The fourth thing you want to do is categorize your expenses. So you can categorize them into different expenses such as housing, transportation, food, whatever. I don't do that. That's a little more detailed than I like to get because I don't have time for that. So the categories that I'm sharing with you are very general categories, but if you wanted to get specific, you could. So if you are someone that, has a grocery budget and this is how much you spend and you want to make sure you always spend a certain amount of money on, fruits and vegetables, certain amount of money on canned goods, certain amount of money on meat. You could dive deeper into the weeds. I just don't do that because I don't have that time and I'm not interested in understanding that kind of level of analysis. But if you are, then you should do it. So definitely do that if it's important to you. So let's go through mine. Okay. The first one, for those of you guys who are new to the channel, I'm currently living in an RV on property that I own. So I purchased my property outright at the end of last year. So now I own it. Me and my husband own it. And we purchased, we had already a Lance trailer that it's a 2465. So it's got a bedroom that I'm in, and then it has the rest of, it's got a bathroom, and then it has a kitchen dining area. And if you're interested in seeing a tour of that, let me know. I can share that with you. And we bought that one in 2020. We're in 2025. So I bought this land and paid it off 2024. So I bought the trailer in 2023 and I paid cash for it. I'm the third owner of this trailer. So I paid cash for it. The trailer itself was listed, I think, for $40,000, and I had saved enough money for it, but I was able to get it for $35,000, which was actually pretty good at the time. And I think at this time, it's if I were to sell it for 35 for getting what I paid into it, I would be able to sell it for that at this time. So I just negotiated the price down because as much as I wanted the trailer, I could find something else under that amount. So that's how I was able to get the trailer for so cheap, because I didn't care. I cared, but I didn't care that much. I didn't want to spend the full asking price. But that's just, up to you. Whenever you're negotiating on things, just, if you really, really care about it, then you pay more, usually. Especially if you've seen the housing prices in 2021. That was crazy. In 2021, people were overbidding because they really, really wanted the house. And so yeah, I just think if you really, really want things, you kind of overpay. But if you can have the mindset that you want a good value for your money and you're not going to overpay, then you can negotiate for the things that you want. And you can get them cheaper. And it was a pretty good deal what we got for this trailer. And it works really nice. It's a 4-season. So it's very, very helpful in the winter. But it is very difficult to live in it in the summer, and expenses can get higher in the summer. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so all to say, I don't have a mortgage payment, and I don't have the land payment because I paid for both of them and saved up enough money to do that. So my property taxes here in this space with this trailer are about $600 a year, which is amazing. If I put a house here, I could expect to pay about $2,000 in property taxes. The property taxes here are based on the value of the item that you're living in. So they're not valuing my trailer for anything. So I'm really just paying kind of the land taxes, to be honest with you. Some of you might be wondering, is that even legal? The answer is yes. So when we bought this land, one of the things that we did was talk to zoning. And before you buy any land, you want to make sure you talk to zoning to make sure that you can legally do whatever you want on that land. If you want to learn more about that, let me know. I'm happy to share that journey with you as well. But we are legally zoned here, and it's all approved. We had to submit our plan. We had to submit all the things, and zoning approved it. So we're legal. It's a beautiful view, by the way. Wonderful RV spot. Love it here. Love it here. Okay. But we just don't know what we're doing in the future. So property taxes, $600 a year. You can find out your property taxes. If you have a mortgage, you're probably paying your property taxes in your mortgage. So instead of having property taxes here, yours might be mortgage. So instead of having property taxes, you might have the word mortgage here. And then your mortgage might be $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, whatever that is. Or if it's not a mortgage and you don't have a house, it might be rent, right? So your rent could be, $1,000, $2,000. You could also have what I call cost sharing, which is something that we sometimes do. And that is if we're going to go somewhere. In this case, in this example, it would be like your house or someone else's house, and you're renting a room, or you're renting out your room. And maybe you're not renting it out to someone you don't know, but if you're renting out to someone you do know, it's called cost sharing. So like if you were going to cost share with your children, then you could say that your mortgage was $1,000, let's say, and your kids pay $200 each, and you have 2 kids. So each kid pays $400, then your cost sharing would be $600, but your mortgage would be $1,000. Hopefully that makes sense. So back to me, my property taxes, $600 a year. All right. So electricity, how do you find out what it costs for utilities? Well, the answer is you experiment. You find out based on what you currently use. So, it's kind of, for me, it's a required expense, but it's not always fixed. So in the winter, my utility bill is pretty low. My electricity bill can run probably $100, depending on, maybe $120, depending on how much electricity I'm using to heat up the RV. So I use electric heat in the RV, although I can use propane. It's just more expensive to use propane. So I just have electricity. So I use about 100 during the winter, and during the summer, I don't know what it will be, but we'll see. We're going to have to figure that out as we go. So again, I haven't owned this place for a year, for very long. So I don't really know what the electricity is going to be, but based on my usage currently, I can expect like my summer bill might be 300, 400. I don't really know. So we'll have to find that out. But what you do typically when you're creating your budget is you look to see, what do I usually spend, during the year? So you can, let's say, in January, you paid $100 for electricity, right? And then February, you paid $50, right? In March, you paid $50, right? Oops. You would look at your electricity bill, and then you would sum up all the months. So I'm just going to randomly put some numbers here for you. So I can say that, in April, maybe the bill's going to be $200. In May, maybe the bill's going to be $400. And then we get really hot in all the way really now till September. And then we start getting cooler again, right? So I could say, like, in general, this is what my utility bill might look like, but you will have data depending on how long you've lived in your house. So if you've lived in your house for decades, you probably have years of, bills that you can look through. And then you just put the bill amount here, how much that bill was. And then what you can do is you can average all these numbers, right? And then if you have an average, you can say, okay, well, my electricity bill is going to be $233, right? So you can put the average there if you want to. I generally don't really do that. Usually what I do is I kind of figure it out by month. So I know, like, if my budget is $3,952 and I know my electricity bill is going to be $100 for the next couple months, I'll leave it at $100. But then I have to adjust my budget in the summer. So I would have to adjust my budget so that I could pay the utility bill. Okay, that's an option. The other option is to put $233 here, right? And then take that money, and then if I only spent $100 of it, right, this month, so let's just say I spent $100 in January, then I would have $133 left. So this would be like the difference. And that $103 can then be forwarded to the next month. So the next month, instead of having the next month, I would go, so let's say this is going to be February, right? So let's just say that's February, right? So next month I would have the 233 plus whatever this was, okay? Oops. Let me just put that there. Equals that plus this number. So I would have $366 to use for electricity. So that's called, I think, a sinking fund is what that's called. So you would have the 366, and let's say you only did 100 that month, right? So the next month you would have, the difference of equals this minus that plus your budget. Plus your budget for the month. Oops. So you would have equals February minus 100 plus your budget. So then I would have $499 for March, right? And that would just continue to grow until July when the bill came. It would be $400, right? So then I would start subtracting. So let's just say this is July, right? And the bill for July was $500, right? Well, hopefully it wouldn't be 500 because then we couldn't cash flow that. But let's just say the bill was 400. Then we take the 499, then we take the 499 and we subtract the 400, and then we add the 233 for the next month. That's how you would do it. So you would have 332 available for the next month, because it would be the difference. So $9.99, right? So it would be $99. So 400 minus 40, which would be 99, and then you would add that 233 again for the next month. So that's kind of how you would do it. But to keep things simple, I don't do that. I would do it that way if I was using a tool like Monarch Money or You Need a Budget. They would be able to do all that for you, but I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is try to estimate what my budget, what my electricity is going to be as I go along. And plus, I'm not even sure if I'm going to be around here. I don't even know. Like, I'm so mobile these days, it doesn't even matter. Like, I could take my RV and just move it up north and pay nothing in utilities because it's so much cooler up there. So it just depends on like your situation. So use your situation. Mine is very variable these days. I don't know one day from the next, honestly. And that's okay. We love to do travel. We love to see new things. So that's an example of how I calculate electricity, and an option for you if you decide to do it either my way or with a sinking fund way, which is totally okay. The next one is internet. So our internet, because we're mobile, we do Starlink, and so that's $165 for us. Cell phone. So your internet might be cheaper, but if you do like a cable or any other subscriptions, then you want to go ahead and make sure that that is included. So let's say you have a Netflix subscription and it's $17, you want to make sure that that's included as well. Speaking of that, I actually do have a Netflix subscription. So I'm going to go ahead and add, I include that under entertainment, by the way. So it depends on how much you want to break things out. If you want to specifically have like internet and cable. If I had internet, cable, and subscriptions, you could have them all separate. I don't do it that way because, again, I'm going for easy. I'm not going for extremely detailed. Now, if I had a problem with spending, then I would go detailed. For example, if I thought my entertainment budget was getting out of hand, then I would start to split it up and look at it more deeply to see where are some things I can cut back. So my internet, $165. Okay, cell phone. Cell phone, I did a good job this year. Actually, my husband did, so we'll give him credit for that. I asked him to look into a company called Visible by Verizon, and if he wouldn't mind seeing if we could switch. And we had originally had T-Mobile, and we're paying like we were paying quite a bit of money. I think we were paying, I want to say $100 plus taxes, but that included the kids. So I took them off the plan. They have their own plans now, so they're invisible. And we actually save about, I want to say $20 to $40 a month just in the taxes, and the service is better. So it was nice to make that change. So think about, like, if you're looking at areas to improve for your budget, usually that cell phone bill can be cut. There's things like Mint Mobile. Again, we use Visible by Verizon. And if I have links to anything, I'll put them in the description and look from there. If they're not there, I don't have them, but look from there. And that way you can see, like, maybe there's a discount. But it seemed initially that the plans were the same because, you know, 2 phones were $50 on T-Mobile, 2 phones were $50 on Visible. But with Visible, the tax was actually already included, so I don't pay all the extra federal taxes and things for my cell phone bill. So that, like, saves us just for 2 phones, like, you know, $20 a month, 4 phones, like $40 a month. That's huge savings over the span of a year for basically better service. So I was really happy about that. So my cell phone bill is $50. Okay, water. Water is pretty expensive in Arizona, especially if you're watering trees. Luckily here I'm not watering trees. I'm just watering people and dogs. So my water bill should be less than $50. So we'll see. It should be less than $50. I think it should be about $20. But for today, I'm going to estimate at $50, and then we can always change the budget. The goal here isn't to be rigid about the budget. The goal here is to really understand what it is that we do and where our money's going. So if I find out that my water bill is really only $20, that gives me $30 to do something else with. Maybe it goes into a sinking fund or an emergency fund. I don't know, but we're going to find out together. Lately, my water bill for the last few months has been $16, I think, or $18. Whatever the minimum is what it's been. And that really is because I haven't used a lot of water here, and I don't water any of the plants because it's desert landscaping. All right, the next one is trash. Our trash is $25, and it's nice. I just have to drop it off at a location. Like, they don't come to my house. I have to literally cart it somewhere for them to get it. But I do it on my way to the gym, so it's okay. But $25. Otherwise, they don't pick up here, and sending it to the actually me putting it in my truck and taking it to the trash station. It's called a transfer station. To take it to the transfer station is actually more expensive than it is to get it for me just to take the trash to up the street for the truck to pick it up. But it's quite a distance, actually. That's what you get when you live out in the middle of kind of by yourself. All right, the next one is groceries. Okay, this $700 is for 2 people. Now, can I get this lower? The answer is yes. Do I want to get it lower? I don't know. I want to go to the grocery store and be able to buy whatever it is that I need. And sometimes whatever it is that I want. So I don't want to go to the grocery store and go, man, I would really like to have a $6 packet of mango and then not get it because I'm trying, to cut back on expenses. No, I want to get the $6 mangoes if I want them. So I used to not be able to do that, especially during the Great Recession. So now that I'm older and I'm, living in an RV, I want to get the things that I want to get. So all to say, I think I can get that lower, but I don't want to do that. So I'm going to leave it at 700 and we'll see. It might actually be higher. I might actually, because eggs, the price of eggs these days, have you seen it? The eggs are for a dozen of them, $6 or $7 for a dozen of them. I can't believe it. And I like to eat eggs. So I'm having, to pay for that. So that budget actually, it could be a little bit higher. We'll see, right? But the goal is to go through the month, calculate all the expenses, and then come back and share with you how we're doing. The next one is restaurants. I don't go out very often. I don't really like going out very often, but I like to have a budget here for restaurants just to track that. So sometimes when Lonnie and I are on the road, we'll stop by McDonald's, we'll grab, a sandwich or something, or we'll grab some sodas from the Circle K on the way. That is what goes in the restaurant's budget. So sometimes that can be, it's usually not a lot, but if we do go out to eat, I want to be able to order what I want. So it's 200. So if we go out to eat, maybe it depends. If we were going out to the Olive Garden or something, it might be $100. So I could do $100 there and then $100 for road trip stuff. Likely I'm not going to use that full 200, but we'll see. If I don't use that full 200, it's likely I'll use it on the grocery budget. So really, we're looking at $900 for food for 2 people, which is probably way too much. But again, I'm old enough where I just don't care. I just want what I want. And I'm very responsible, but I also don't want to sacrifice my health. And it seems to me that the things that I'm buying, like the protein shakes, the protein powder, the special snacks, the good food, gosh, it just seems to be expensive, but we'll see. We'll see. All right. The next thing is our homeowners insurance. Okay, so for our homeowners insurance, we're insuring our RV, and so that is $42. So super cheap to insure an RV. The next one is car insurance. So that's how much does it cost to insure my truck and the van. Oh my goodness. So we also have a van that we love to travel in. So that is there, and it's expensive. That van is expensive. So this actually, for me, is a sinking fund. So you won't see me actually spend out of this fund until like April or May or June or July. Whenever the bill comes in, I pay it in advance because I get a discount. If they don't offer a discount, I don't pay in advance. The next one is gas. Lonnie and I like to travel, so we have $300 set aside for gas. That may or may not be enough depending on where we travel, and it may be too much if we don't travel far enough. And when we're just locally traveling around, it is too much. But if we decide to go across the state, visit mom and dad, whatever, sometimes it's exactly the right. So we just budget $300, and hopefully that will work. And if it doesn't work, we'll have to cut back somewhere else. That's what's really awesome about paying attention throughout the month. So one thing you could do, I don't think I will. I might do it, but I don't think I will. Instead of doing January here, you could do maybe, week 1. And then you would have, 4 weeks. And then you would have January total. So you could do this on your spreadsheet. And every week, you could come and see how close you are, right? You can say, okay, didn't have to do property taxes, but I did have electric, right? So maybe my electric bill came in at $80 week 1, and then maybe my groceries I spent $100 this week, and then I spent $300 the next week, and then I spent $100 next week, whatever, and then maybe $300 on the back end, and then I could sum these up, and then it would be $800, which would mean I was over by $100, right? So if I was in week 3, I could know that I couldn't spend $300 in week 4, and then I could get closer to the $200 number and actually make my budget. So if you are wanting to really dive deep and make sure that you hit your numbers, either use a software like Monarch Money or use a spreadsheet like this and make sure your weeks are put out like this so you can write it all down. So we'll see if I want to do that. I'm not sure. I kind of don't want to do too much work if I can avoid it, because I'm so busy with my job and all the YouTube channels and all the things that just I try not to do things if I don't have to do them. But you could try not to do it, and then you don't make your numbers and you're like, well, maybe I need to go do this, right? So again, it's a challenge and an experiment to see how we can modify behaviors, get better habits, and save some money. Okay. The next one is medical insurance. So this is fixed for us, and it's expensive, and it's $600. And I can imagine that even like in my Social Security years, my insurance is going to be high. Yeah, there's Medicare. Will it be cheaper? Maybe, but then I'll probably have more prescriptions. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. But that's what I'm paying now. Medical prescriptions, about $100. That's about right. Medical copays, that might be, that's about right. Copays went up this year. So, I mean, if I see a specialist, I'm out $50 just to see a dermatologist. So I try not to go if I don't have to. Or I try like Teladoc. I think it's cheaper for my insurance if I do a telehealth call instead of actually walk in and see a specialist, because it was $50 just to see my dermatologist the other day. And it was just a follow-up. That's one of the things I'm kind of thinking I might not want to do is follow-ups in the future, because I feel like unless they're needed. Some follow-ups are needed, like cardiac follow-ups are needed. But like if you have, I don't know, a cut and you get it fixed by whoever and then it's healed, do you really need a follow-up for that? I don't really think so. But what do I know? You decide for you. All right. The next thing is household and personal items. So that would be things like deodorants, hair spray, which I don't use, but shampoo, makeup, toiletries, things like that. Could also be paper towels, could be decor. I don't do a lot of decor, as you can tell. You could put stuff like that in there. Just know what it is you're doing. And if you need to break it out, break it out. The next one is entertainment. Now this one might be low. I really like to do things. So that might be low. So what's included in entertainment? Netflix subscription, Paramount Plus subscription. If I have Walmart Plus, that would be under there only because the Walmart Plus includes the Paramount subscription. You could also put Walmart Plus under subscriptions if you have a category for that, or you could put it under groceries if all you do is buy it for groceries. So my entertainment budget is $100. I think it might be low. Okay, the next one, pets. Oh my goodness. I don't know if I can have pets in retirement. Let me know if you're retired and you have pets, because this one is, I think, accurate at $400. We make our own pet food. They eat a lot. This actually might be low. I'm not sure. We tried Farmer's Dog. It didn't work out for them. Farmer's Dog, I think, was about $500 or $600 a month for them. If you are interested in learning more about our dogs and what we feed them, again, I can pull a video together for that as well. But we make their own food, and they have just turned around from their kibble. Like, they were having kibble, hair falling out, general bad health, completely overweight. Switched them to a recipe of salmon, rice, green beans, pumpkin, sweet potato, and blueberries. And they are doing amazing. So, I don't know. I feel like you're going to pay it in the food or you're going to pay it in their health bill. I'd rather pay it in the food. So this category for pets includes their food. It includes wellness visits. One of our dogs is on a wellness plan. And so that's like an insurance thing. It's not insurance, because if she has a medical issue, that would not be covered. But like her annual shots are covered, so it's like a wellness plan. It included her, it includes a lot of things. So anyways, all to say, I think 400 is accurate based on what we've spent in the past. And we'll just see. Okay. The next one is clothes. Now this one is something that I don't really do a lot of. Usually if I'm buying clothes, it's like the Costco sale where it's like you get 5 items and, $25 off 5 items, and it makes each item like $5 or $10. So that's usually what I'm doing when I buy clothes. However, I will occasionally save up and buy something nice. Like the other day, last month, I bought a pair of Ugg boots, and those were on sale for, I think, $86. So that would have been in this clothes budget. That's where those boots would have went. Oh yeah, there's also other ways that I can earn money or credits. I was going to tell you that, if you wanted to in your income, you could put also if you have any cash back bonuses. I don't do that. If I get any cash back bonuses from credit cards or from shopping, that's just bonus money. So I don't really count that. Let me know if you count it for you in your budget. I don't like doing it. I like to, if I'm using an app like Capital One Shopping, and for the Ugg boots, by the way, I got like $30 back. So I spent like $86, but I got $30 back. So kind of it's like only paying $56 for those. But I put it in my budget as $86, and then that $30 that came back was just like bonus fun money. So I think if you're short one day and you want some of that bonus money, you can just withdraw it. I don't know. What do you do with your bonus money? A lot of times, like for credit cards, you can use, the cash back that Discover gives. You can do cash back, or you can get bonus gift cards. And I usually get the bonus gift cards because you get more money back for those. So I like those. And then if I have a gift card, then it doesn't come out of my budget because it came as a bonus. So let me know what you do for yours. The next one is giving charity. Now, you may not have this in your budget. I do. I have girls that I sponsor across the world, and I really love sponsoring them. So they're included here, as well as donations to food banks and buying Bibles. I like doing all that stuff. So that one is here. Now, how do you decide what to do? Do what's in your heart. Do what's in your heart. I don't subscribe to, you must tithe. I think Jesus says, when you give freely, you give out of your heart. You don't give grudgingly. And so I don't want to put my giving on autopilot, and I don't want to assign anything to it. Although you can see it's, the budget's just 10%. But again, if you want to give more, give more. If it's not in your heart to give, that, then do whatever's in your heart. I know that when we give, we should give freely and cheerfully and joyfully. And if you can't do that, then you might consider praying about it and then deciding what it is that you're willing to do for out of your own heart. I don't judge anybody. I don't say you have to do a certain amount. I know there are many, many churches that teach you have to do 10%. In some cases, you have to do more than that. I have seen friends and family members get literally bills from their churches, and it puts them off, and then they don't want to go to church, and then it kind of breaks the relationship between the church and the congregation. And I've seen it happen, and I don't care for it. So I say give what you can give joyfully, and give joyfully. Give of not just your money, give of all your resources, give of your time. For me, that is the biggest thing I could give anyone, is my time. It's just, money's so easy, and I just write a check or give them a credit card. But time, you actually have to invest in. And so, if I'm giving you my time, you're worth it. You're worth it. So, anyways, I like to give. So, will I give more than this number this year? Yeah. But for this purpose of this budget and all of this, we're going to just assign the 10% for that. The next one is the gym. Gym is really important to me. Both me and my husband go to Planet Fitness, and I also go to line dancing. So my line dancing class, I have a special deal that I get through my insurance. So I think it's $29 for their program. And it includes my line dancing class, and it includes a basic Planet Fitness membership. I don't want the basic Planet Fitness membership. I want the premium membership. And the reason why I like the premium membership is because you get the total body enhancement, which is the basically vibration plate and red light therapy at the same time. It's good for your health. I want that. So I upgrade. And I think my upgrade is like an additional $13. So $75 for Jim total. Lonnie's is already upgraded, so he pays $25. So 30 plus 25, that's 30, 40, 55. And then 30, 40, 50. Let's just do it. So I pay 30. Lonnie pays 25. And then I upgrade my Planet Fitness membership. So what is that? So some of that is 70, but I have an extra $5 in there because Lonnie pays an annual fee. And I don't pay the annual fee because I'm on my insurance program. It's called Prime membership. Some of you guys have Silver Sneakers. It's very similar. Prime membership is Silver Sneakers is for age like, I think 60, I don't know, 55, 60, 65. But it's for, I'm not eligible for Silver Sneakers at my age. That's what I know. But I am eligible to pay for the Prime membership, and that gives me a discount. So I'm able to do my line classes and my Planet Fitness, which are important to me. I actually can do additional classes and additional gyms at no additional charge. I just haven't found other ones that I really want to do, and I'm happy with where I'm going. So I keep that as is. Okay. So then I have what's called an emergency fund. I always think it's important to build this up. So every month, hopefully I don't use that emergency fund, and then I can keep going. So at the end of the year, if I have $100, at the end of the year, I'll have $1,000. I'll have $1,200, $1,200 in my emergency fund. And that would be great for paying for things like, something we don't think of. Yeah, like stuff we don't think of. Yeah, that kind of gave me a thought here. So, sometimes when we're going through the budget, we realize we're missing something. And that I am missing car maintenance. So I think my car maintenance, so it's going to be oil changes. Both my cars are relatively new, so oil changes are really the big deal this year. So, and 2 oil changes over the course of a year, $100. So maybe $25 here. And then my emergency fund can be $75. All right, so I do what's called zero-based budgeting. So the difference should be 0 at the end. So when I come back in January, if you want to see that, let me know. I will do this with you so you can see, what I spent in January and then what the difference is. And then any extra, I'll probably put into like an emergency fund, or maybe we'll have a vacation to plan for and I'll need to do that. So when I set my budget, for every month. I don't set it for, I generally try to think through the year, but I don't set it for any specific month. Like you saw earlier when I was talking about the electricity bill, obviously, March would be more expensive. So I just kind of adjust my budget based on that month's estimate. You don't have to do it that way. You can set your budget for the year and just do what we were talking about earlier called sinking funds, where, if you don't spend it that month, then you just roll it over to the next month. So you can do that too. You can see I kind of have a hodgepodge of it. I have some sinking funds, like, obviously the property tax is a sinking fund because it's not going to be paid until, the property tax bill comes in. But this works for me, and I kind of try to do what works for me as best I can. All right, so the next thing was we talked about categorizing spending. If you want to do that, to organize it more, you can. I'm trying to keep it simple for myself. Number 5, prioritize your spending. So we talked about, electricity kind of being important. Cell phone, I think, is important. Some kind of mode of communication, water, trash. Like these things are like necessary. But can I cut back on groceries? Yeah. So you categorize and prioritize your money based on what works for you. But let's say that my car maintenance really should be, really comes in at $50. Well, then I have to take it from my emergency fund. But what if it comes in at $1,000? Well, now I got to figure some things out because I don't have enough in my emergency fund. Okay. So you just have to kind of prioritize as best you can. And then if you go over your budget, don't feel bad. Use it as a learning experience, because then you can say, oh, well, Obviously I like better quality food, so I want to spend more. Or maybe I'm going out on my dates with my husband to Starbucks, and those are important to us, so we're going to buy the Starbucks. I think you buy whatever you want to buy. I really do think that having a budget helps you to be in control of your life, and don't let other people decide what your life should be. Your life is your life. Do your life. Okay, so then the next one was to choose a budgeting method. I talked about what I do, which is a zero-based budget. So I assign every dollar until the income equals the expenses. So you can see our income for this challenge is $3,952, and the total of my expenses is $3,952, so the difference is zero. Now, is this going to work out? No, I'm probably going to underspend this, I think. We'll see. Okay, if I underspend it when I come over here and start doing January's total, right? Because that's what my plan is. And let's say I go here and I do exactly everything, right? Let's say that my food bill, that's always the easiest thing for me to look at in terms of reducing. Let's say my food bill was $637, right? And the difference all right, why did I do that? So why did I do that? Oh, because I don't have an income. All right, here's my income. All right, so I got my Social Security checks in, and they're $3,952, and then my grocery bill was less, right? So that means I have a difference of $63. That means what I will do is adjust my emergency fund, for example, and it really just depends. So my emergency fund would then be $138, and then I would just have that fund, right? And it would just grow, and maybe I'd put a little note over here that just says, emergency fund, and that just shows how much money I have available. So we'll just cross that bridge when we get to it, but that's why this is a zero-based budget. There are other different rules. I don't do those. I do zero-base. The next one is setting spending limits. We already talked about all that, depending on your income and priorities, so I already showed you our limits for that. This is a general guide. If my groceries are, $700, great. If they're $800, I better figure it out, right? This is a challenge, and this is meant to be a learning experience, and I'm not going to be so rigid that I don't live the life that I want to live for this challenge. Now, if indeed I only had $3,952, which is what I'm trying to do, then, obviously I will have to, adjust somewhere. I might have to cancel Netflix to make up for the difference. That's just life. Those are things that we do. When we were in the Great Recession and Lonnie and I didn't have an income, we only had our savings, I would put money into the envelopes, and literally when I got to the cash register, if there wasn't enough money in the envelope, the food went back. Unfortunately, I didn't have the money to pay for it. So if your situation is dire as mine was during the Great Recession, you might want to use envelopes, or you might want to use cash. You might not want to use credit cards. You might need to come in here and say, well, I can't afford $165 in internet, so that's going away. And that's okay. I'll use my phone. My phone has unlimited self plan. So I could delete that and not use the internet. I could go to the library, use the free internet there. Whatever works for you. The idea is that you're going to understand here by going through your budget where some areas are that you need to focus on, and make adjustments along the way. All right, so planning for savings and emergencies. So that one is trying to build an emergency fund. And then our scenario, we're going to try to build an emergency fund for $1,200. So we're going to see. Again, our goal is to save for retirement. The next one is review and adjust regularly. We talked about that. So we talked about checking your budget weekly or monthly. So for me, I'm definitely on for monthly. In terms of weekly, Not really sure. We'll see. We'll see. If I'm having trouble with the monthly, I'll switch to weekly so that I can be better at managing my budget. It says also adjust for expenses and changes in income. So that's one of the things we talked about earlier was I said, you plan the budget. I plan the budget for every month. I don't plan it for a whole year. So if I need to adjust, I will. For example, if I don't get my Social Security check, right, then I couldn't have an income. I'd have to go DoorDash or get some money somehow. All right. The next one is using tools to simplify the process. So I like Monarch Money the best. It makes it so you don't really have to do all the spreadsheet work, but it does cost like $10 a month. You need a budget, also expensive. Spreadsheets, free. So this is what I'm using for you to see is a Google spreadsheet. Highly recommend you use a Google spreadsheet. I like Monarch Money and You Need a Budget because they will aggregate all of the transactions into one software. So if you're someone who doesn't pay attention to their money or doesn't like all the details, you could set up one of those, open it up every day just to check on your accounts. And then you would see, like, is anyone stealing my money? I think it's important to pay attention to your finances at a minimum on a weekly basis. I pay attention to mine on a daily basis, and it doesn't take that long. You use an aggregator like Monarch Money. But for this example and challenge, I'm going to use a spreadsheet. And I'm using a spreadsheet because everyone has access to a spreadsheet for free. And I want you to use what you have. And so the best thing for me to show you is on a spreadsheet. All right. And the last one is to stay accountable, track your progress, and review your goals and reward yourself for milestones. So that's fascinating. How do you reward yourself? It could be a trip. It could be a vacation. If you're saving money and you're, let's say at the end of this month, I had that extra $60, right? Or that extra $63. Well, I could go use that money and go buy a sweater, right? Something extra. I don't have to put it in my emergency fund. I could bring it to the next month, put it in my clothes budget and buy a pair of Hokas, which I also like, or Hokas. I don't know what they're called. Hokas. I think they're called Hokas. They're really great running shoes. I really like those. So I could probably put money in towards that for the next month and then go buy a pair, right? And that would be a treat. That would be really cool. Or you could save it. So do whatever works for you and have a lot of fun with it. This is going to be a fun challenge. Can we live on Social Security if we live in an RV? So we'll find out. All right. Hopefully this was helpful. If it was, give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and let me know how you're doing in your budget. I would love to know. And if you have comments or helpful tips for me, it always is helpful. All right. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.